Hello and welcome to the first video cast for FranklyRealty.com. Today is November 5th and my name is Frank Borges-Llosa and this is with FranklyRealty.com, which I am the owner and founder of. Today I want to talk about whether now is the time to buy or sell. You might have seen a singular cell phone advertisement where the lady is talking thousands of minutes, and on the one side she's saying, "Oh, now's the time to buy, buy, buy." And then on the other side it says, "Now's the time to sell, sell, sell." Images of this, like this, make realtors look horrible. Like we're always trying to sell you something or convince you on something that would make it to be to our benefit, when it's supposed to be us doing everything to your benefit. On top of that, the Realtor Association recently launched a full-page ad in the Washington Post saying, "Now is the time to buy and sell." Like, okay, this is going to be great. Let's read what they have to say. Sure enough, the article actually only discussed some benefits for buying. Now that it's a down market, they talked about benefits for buying and didn't even discuss benefits for selling right now. So how does an association try to convince people that now's the time to buy and now's the time to sell without looking like idiots? Anyhow, I think buyers and sellers and my customers are smarter than that. So when people ask me, is now the time to buy or sell, what I say to them is, don't buy, ask why. I'm not saying don't buy a house. I'm saying don't buy a house for the wrong reasons. And here are some myths that I get all the time. The number one myth that I get is people say, "I'm renting right now and I feel like I'm throwing money out the window in rent." And I say to them, hold on a second. If you were to get a mortgage, first of all, the mortgage would be a few $100s more than what you're paying for rent, assuming that we're looking at the same type of property. A few $100s more, and 95 to 98% of that for the first few years is going to be interest. So paying your landlord $1,000 or $2,000 versus paying interest $1,000 or $2,000, what's the difference? They're both going out the window. Now we'll talk about the tax benefits of interest, but they're not that substantial. So be less paranoid about your landlord making money and do the math and understand that paying interest is exactly the same thing as throwing money out the window. The second thing that I get is, and I haven't been getting this as much recently, but a couple of years ago, is that the DC area can never go down. You got jobs, things have been skyrocketing, and somehow people thought DC area can never go down. I'm not saying that it's going to go down in the future. It has gone down already. I'm not saying it's going to go down more or rebound. I don't know. But you have to be prepared for that risk. The DC area can go down. I have examples of people that bought and had to wait 9 years in order for them to break even. So you got to be prepared for that. This is not going to be some guaranteed profit center like people used to say a couple of years ago. Other people tell me that they need the tax write-off. They're paying too much in taxes, they need a tax write-off, and if they get a mortgage with interest, they can write off the interest. That's fine, but make sure you run the numbers, because if you're paying $2,000 in interest as part of your mortgage, yes, you get to write that off, but that's the same as Uncle Sam giving you back, let's say you're in the 1/3 tax bracket, it's the same as Uncle Sam giving you back about $700. So you have to look at the after-tax benefit of buying and compare that to renting. And as a side note, make sure you're using 100% financing in your numbers when you're comparing rent versus buy. I'm not saying for you to do 100% financing. I'm just saying that you can't come in and say, "Oh, I'm going to put 50% down, let's run the numbers, and oh wow, it's much cheaper to buy." It doesn't work that way. You've skewed the scale. You've got to compare apples and apples, and the only way to do that, including opportunity costs, where that money would be otherwise, is to say, if I bought it with 100% financing, how much would it cost me? The other reason I get for people saying that they have to buy or they should buy is they say it's not as risky. Housing isn't as risky. Well, I can give you some examples of someone that bought a condo in Ballston, 10 minutes from DC, for $600,000 and was unable to sell it 200 days later, had to go into foreclosure, selling it for $450,000. This is a super conservative woman whose brother said this was a no-brainer, DC area can never go down. Well, she's learned her lesson. But my point is that housing is risky. It can even be far more risky than stock. What people don't understand with risk is leverage. With stocks, most people buy $1,000 worth of stock or $10,000 worth of stock, and they don't buy it on margin. They buy it straight cash. So let's say it goes down 70% like the NASDAQ did. That's horrible. $10,000 turns into $3,000. But with leverage, if you're buying a house with 5, 10, or 20% down, let's just use the example of 5% down. You put $10,000 down on a house, and let's say that's 5% in this scenario. If the market just goes down 3%, that's practically the equivalent of the entire NASDAQ drop. So here people are saying that 70% is the worst thing in the world, yet that's the equivalent of real estate going down 3%. Let alone real estate going down maybe 10%. If you put in 5% of your money, you put in $10,000 or $20,000, $30,000, you've lost not only your entire investment, but you've also lost that exact amount again. So real estate can be tricky. Now the upsides are great, don't get me wrong, but people think that they're guaranteed. They're nowhere near guaranteed, and people don't fully calculate the downside. Again, I'm not saying not to buy. I'm saying that you have to have in your equations a 1/3 scenario, what happens if things go down, 1/3 scenario, what happens if things go up, and then leave the last for a break-even analysis, and then run your numbers that way. So for people that are looking to buy, I just say make sure you're buying for the right reasons. For example, you're sick and tired of moving every year. That to me is an acceptable reason. It's a pain in the neck to move every year. If you're planning on living in a place for 3, 5, 7, 10 years, then great. You'll ride out any ups and downs, most likely, you never know, and you'll come out ahead. Now, don't get trapped in the I'll live in it for a couple of years and then I'll just rent it scenario. I hear that all the time. People forget that the tax benefits are lost after 5 years. So if you live in it for 2 out of 5 years, you can sell your house tax-free. Now talk to your tax advisor for details on that. So, but many of you that might be looking to live in it for 2 years and then rent it out, remember that you only have a window of about another 2.5 months, 2.5 years before you have to start selling it. 2.5 because it might take a half a year to sell. Just make sure that you fully understand the consequences of renting it after you buy. Because a lot of people say that when most likely people they sell their property and use that profit and they buy another house. But for some reason everyone thinks that they're going to become a landlord. Another great reason is if you've had a big transition in your life. You just got married or whatever your reason and you're looking for something larger and you have the time horizon and you're not buying it number one as an investment, but you're buying it number two as an investment, but number one as a lifestyle choice. And you also are the type that likes to do reconstruction on your house, wants to have pride in home ownership. Those are great reasons. But don't try and buy a house because solely the tax reasons and other benefits like that. And that's it. Thank you very much. Go to www.FranklyRealty.com and send us an email about what you think. Thanks.